How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Virginia's current governor, Ralph Northam, and the racist pictures that have unearthed from him that came from his EVMS yearbook. That's Eastern Virginia Medical School. Now, I'm not trying to hear any excuses because I've been reading stuff all on the internet all day, all night. People are saying, oh, it was a long time ago. He was a kid. He didn't know any better. This, that, and the third. First of all, this yearbook was published in 1984. That's the year I was born. I'm not, Methuselah over here. I'm a pretty young guy. I'm not super young, but I'm not old. You understand what I mean? That's number one. Number two, by this time, he had already graduated high school and VMI. That's the Virginia Military Institute. And now he's on to medical school. He was 25 years old in 1984. So I'm not trying to hear this whole young and dumb or whatever. I also don't want to hear this whole thing about, oh, I didn't know about black culture. I didn't know it would be offensive, this, that, and the third. He went to Onancock High School on the Eastern Shore of Virginia. That is, or at least was, a black school. I heard that he was one of, if not the only, white guys on his graduating class. Everybody else is black. Furthermore, he lived in Norfolk while going to EVMS, because that's where it's located at. That is at least a 48% black city with 250,000 population. So I don't want to hear this whole thing about, oh, it was a long time ago. He was a kid. He didn't know any better. He wasn't around any black people. All those things are totally false. And yes, the picture is real. It's been confirmed by local media. When I saw it at first, I think him on Big League Politics. I was like, okay, let's wait a minute. There could be Photoshop or something like that. But then Wavy came out with it. Wavy is located, I think it's in Portsmouth. That's like right across the street, if you will, from Norfolk. It's right there. It's neighboring cities. Local media came and outed the guy. I have a lot to say here. I don't even know where to start. Let's talk about the picture right quick. This picture could have been unearthed easily. In 2017, there was this big, crazy election cycle. He was battling the Republican nominee, Ed Gillespie, who I think really is a jobber. I think that now, and I thought that back then. I voted during the primary for this particular election and also in the general. In the primary, I voted for Frank Wagner. I did not vote for Corey Stewart or Ed Gillespie because I thought that Ed Gillespie was a jobber and that Corey Stewart was not strong enough. And the reason why I thought he was a jobber, meaning a guy that just goes in to lose and is not really trying to win, is because of his demeanor. It kind of just turned me off, rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, nah, I don't want to vote for him. Let me go vote for the guy that seems like he's more strong, and that was Frank Wagner. I did not vote for Ed Gillespie in the primary. Remember during this primary cycle, the election cycle or whatever, there was this ad ran from Latino Victory Fund on behalf of Ralph Northam that painted Ed Gillespie as a racist. You know, it was this truck with a Confederate flag on the back, and it was chasing around a bunch of randomly diverse kids. Remember that ad? That came from or was blessed by Ralph Northam. Now, I don't know if he came out and said, well, no matter, I remember now, he didn't denounce the ad, but he was like, well, we didn't do it. It wasn't us. But he didn't say, oh, I denounced that. I rebuked that. He pretty much embraced it without embracing it. Ralph Northam, that is. So Ralph Northam ran this whole campaign about Ed Gillespie being a racist, Ed Gillespie being intolerant, Ed Gillespie being exactly what he appears to be. I've not seen any pictures of Ed Gillespie in blackface or the Klan costume. I don't know if Ralph Northam is a guy in the blackface or in the Klan costume. Either way it goes, it's still wrong. But Ed Gillespie, back to him, he could have found it out because all it took for the local media was to call EVMS and say, hey, can you send the picture over? And then it was done. Just like that. The picture was originally found from Big League Politics, but the local media here in Virginia, or where I was in Virginia, I'm not there anymore, they called the school, got it, and it was a wrap. So that's that. But to move right along to Ralph Northam. Ralph Northam, I knew would be a problem for Virginia. The former governor, Terry McAuliffe, was a problem. This was a guy that gave pretty much every felon in Virginia the right to vote, right before the election. And you know what that's all about. You're just trying to get more votes for Ralph Northam. In Virginia, little known fact, you cannot run back-to-back gubernatorial campaigns, which means you cannot be the governor back-to-back. He did, however, campaign for Ralph Northam since Ralph Northam was his lieutenant governor. Even Terry McAuliffe has come out and said that Northam should resign as a result of the pictures being unearthed. Now, I don't know if they didn't find it. It's hard to believe that it just didn't know that it existed. It's really hard to believe they didn't know it existed. I think Gillespie knew because he could have done opposition research. He was a former head of the RNC, so I doubt that he's ignorant to doing oppo research, okay? He has the money. It comes from D.C. and Virginia. We're not a poor state. D.C.'s not a poor place. He has the money, but he didn't do it or ignored it. Terry McAuliffe probably knew as well, but ignored it. Either way it goes, McAuliffe is saying he should resign now. Now, the funny part is if Northam resigns, you have the lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax, come in his place. The problem is, do the Democrats even want Justin Fairfax? Justin Fairfax is black. And the reason why I mention that is because back in 2017, I had this post on my Facebook page that said, congrats to Ralph Northam and Justin Fairfax. Oh, wait a minute. Look on the screen before you at these marketing materials. In the marketing materials, on one of them you see Ralph Northam, the candidate for governor, Justin Fairfax, lieutenant governor candidate, and Mark Herring, the attorney general. At the time, he was attorney general, and he was going to be that continuously, or he had to vote for him, or whatever the case may be. Right next to that, there's the same kind of ad without Justin Fairfax. All you have is the governor and the attorney general. Why would you not have the lieutenant governor on there? Oh, because certain areas in Northern Virginia where it's all liberal and rich people that believe in diversity did not want him on the particular marketing materials. It would not be as appealing. They like Northam and Mark Herring, who was a gun grabber, by the way. Mark Herring was a guy I did a video about a little while ago, maybe about 2 years ago. He was a guy that revoked Virginia's concealed carry reciprocity, which means that if you have a concealed carry permit, you cannot go from Virginia to neighboring states or vice versa without going to that particular state or Virginia itself at the capital. In the case of Virginia, it'd be Richmond. You had to go there to get your actual permit rather than your permit from the other state being valid. Okay. And that was a big problem because if you live in Virginia, like let's say you live in Norfolk, Ralph Northam, you couldn't go to Carolina, which is like 30 miles away or less, which is concealed carry without going to the capital. What's it? Raleigh, Durham, whatever it is, and getting a concealed carry permit there and going through their whole process. Basically, you're trying to gun grab, but that's a different story. And I digress for now. Let's get back to Ralph Northam. I am not surprised at all. There was also an incident happened in 2013 when Northam was trying to be the lieutenant governor of Virginia. He had a debate with Bishop E.W. Jackson, who was a black man. Check this out.
All right. Senator Northam, thank you very much. Mr. Jackson, we appreciate you both being here.
Appreciate it.
As I said, this is the last opportunity for our viewers and the voters to see the two candidates side by side. We appreciate you making time for us live late on a Thursday night.
Now, as you see, E.W. Jackson was trying to get Northam to shake his hand before the debate. Some may say, oh, he didn't see him. He was looking straight forward. But E.W. Jackson touches him and nothing, totally ignores him. Now, somebody could say, oh, it's because he's a Republican and that's why he didn't want to shake his hand because he's a Democrat. He's a stomped down liberal, whatever. Okay, that's fine. But he touched you, so why not at least acknowledge the man? Is it because he's a Republican or is it something else? I don't know. I mean, you dressing in blackface or you have on the Klan outfit, either one. You're leaving your lieutenant governor, a black male, off of certain marketing materials. You don't want to shake the black man's hand during the debate for lieutenant governor. And on top of that, you are a late-term abortion advocate despite being a medical doctor. You're a brain surgeon, a neurosurgeon. You got on TV and defended it. You got on TV and defended a baby being born resuscitated, and then deciding whether or not you want to kill the baby.
And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion.
Now, you came out and said, oh, that was taken out of context. That wasn't really what I meant by that. Whatever. You also supported the bill that Kathy Tran came out with, which is unrelated to what he said on TV, which allows for late-term abortions up to the point of birth for mental health reasons. That's aside from whether the baby is going through physical duress or stress or something like that. No, you said that you support Kathy Tran's bill, which allows for late-term abortions up to the point of birth for mental health reasons. Okay? Are you a eugenicist, sir? You are a pediatric neurosurgeon, a child's brain surgeon, have been since the early 90s in Norfolk, but you say that it's okay to do that? Abortions in the black community account for 35% of all U.S. abortions, despite us only being about 13% of the population. If you are a doctor, you know that. So if you're not racist, then you're having a hard time convincing me otherwise, sir. Also, the media is in on this whole situation, just like, you know, you got the Democrat Party, they're jobbing just like Ed Gillespie, the establishment. The media is also in on it. When CNN, the liberal media, played Ralph Northam's apology, they listed that he was a Republican on the bottom of the screen.
A few minutes ago, Governor Northam posted this video on Twitter.
My fellow Virginians, earlier today I released a statement apologizing for behavior in my past that falls far short of the standard you set for me when you elected me to be.
Now, some would say, well, that's an innocent typo, whatever. People see that and they instantly associate Ralph Northam with the Republican Party and racism and everything else. They could come out and say, oh, we apologize for that. We didn't mean it. They can issue a retraction of sorts, but it doesn't really matter because it's already out there. And now people are already on Twitter talking about, oh, well, he's racist because he's a Republican. He's not a Democrat. You know, people are already saying that, and it's already out there. So the regular normies that don't really watch the news or TV like that, they watch it occasionally when things like this happen, they're going to believe that. The same thing as the whole hands up, don't shoot, this, that, and the third. You understand what I mean? So I hope that Ralph Northam resigns as the governor of Virginia, although I doubt it will make a difference because who are you going to put in this place? Justin Fairfax, the guy that a lot of Democrats probably don't want because he's black. Okay. You're going to put in Mark Herring, their attorney general, the third in command, who is a gun grabber, and I will argue is almost worse than Ralph Northam. Maybe you could put in Terry McAuliffe. You can't run back-to-back campaigns, but maybe you can be the governor back-to-back if the circumstances call for it. I'm not really sure how that works, but either way it goes, I don't want to hear no excuses. I ain't trying to hear nobody in the comments talking about, oh, it was a long time ago. Don't look at yearbooks. Let's not forget Brett Kavanaugh. Let's not forget about that. They're talking about what does boofing mean, all this, that, and the third. So if we're going to go people's yearbooks and talk about words and semicolons and stuff like that, let's look at the clear spoken gun of a guy in either a Klan costume or blackface in 1984 in Virginia. He went to Onancock High School. That is a black or was a black high school. He was one of the only, if not the only, white guys in his graduating class. Then he went to Norfolk. He was in the military. I'm not trying to hear this whole thing about lack of exposure. And a long time ago, this is not an old man. He is my father's age. He is the exact age as my dad, 59 years old. So I don't want to hear nothing. No excuses. He's got to resign. I can't wait. Leave Richmond, return to Onancock or DC, wherever you want to live. It's time for you to bounce. So what do you think? Are you surprised that Ralph Northam has been outed for these pictures? I'm not surprised at all. When you have an abortionist, a doctor who is an abortionist that believes in late-term abortion, despite black abortions being 1/3 of abortions and we're only 13% of the population, this is to be expected. You don't want to shake the man's hand. You leaving your black lieutenant governor off of marketing materials. This is, this is par for the course. Okay. Now, I'm waiting to see somebody on the Republican side with blackface or a Klan costume on in their medical school, way past how, like when you're talking about him being like 16, he's 25 years old doing this. I'm waiting on that to actually come out. That's what I want to see. I'm waiting on it to come out. What if it was Trump doing something like this? Can you imagine? The follow? They're trying to get Trump thrown in the penitentiary for having an affair, allegedly. An affair. Nothing racist, nothing like that. A woman that was consensual. They're trying to argue this whole moral high ground thing. That's the only thing you really can argue. It ain't no legal thing or nothing like that. So if you got the moral high ground when it comes to Trump and the alleged affair with Stormy Daniels or whoever, keep that same energy when it comes to this guy and his transgressions at 25 years old wearing blackface and or a Klan costume. So that's on my chest, man. I'm from Virginia, so it hits close to home. I voted during the election when this guy was running. I knew that he was going to be like this, and I was trying to warn people, and I felt like Ed Gillespie was in on the bag. He was a jobber. I think I'm right, because how is it that you have all this money at your disposal for Oppo research and you don't find that yearbook, which was right there in Norfolk the whole time? The media called and got the picture in 5 minutes. Why couldn't you do it, Ed Gillespie? I'll leave that right there for now, but whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.